Okay, hiding all my stuff, making sure everything is big and easy to see. Well, bam, make that nice, all set. Here we go. I'm gonna read a comic about Ferdinand Magellan, a guy that we've studied a lot in class. And this is fun. I like graphic novels. I'm gonna read my graphic novel here. I'm gonna do my best to put my mouse on the tab of the comic box where I'm at. It's a windy day outside. It's hard to tell, but it's a windy day out. Okay. The voyage begins. September 20, 1519. A fleet of 5 ships sail from Sancular de Barrameda, Spain. Did I say that right? Yikes, where did it go? I don't know. I might keep reading. You might be able to understand the sentence. Okay. Sancular de Barrameda, Spain. The men aboard hope to find a westward route to the Spice Islands. The islands are rich in cloves, nutmeg, black pepper, ginger, cinnamon. I like cinnamon. Access to trade with the Spice Islands would bring great wealth to Spain. The Spice Islands must be in a sea beyond South America. I believe there's a strait at the bottom of South America that leads to the sea. And we know from our vocabulary activity that a strait is a gap between two bits of land with water. The fleet is commanded by Ferdinand Magellan, a Portuguese sailor. He is helped by his servant Enrique. That must be Enrique. Magellan first approached King Manuel the First of Portugal to fund the expedition, but the king refused. However, his rival, King Charles the First of Spain, agreed to provide ships and supplies. The Portuguese control the waters around Africa. If we want to reach the Spice Islands, we must sail west. But no one has ever tried that before. That's right, Enrique. We'll be the first. Ah! What is happening with my mouse? What happens if I click this? Fireworks. Well, this seems kind of distracting. About 270 men sail on the expedition. Many of the sailors are Spanish or Portuguese. Beware the sailors who are unhappy that you command, sir. I expect trouble, especially from Captain Juan de Cartagena and Esteban Gomez. But I will honor my promise to King Charles to find the Spice Islands. Spain will grow even more powerful and it controls the spice trade. By mid December, the fleet lands in present day Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. The sailors trade goods and local foods. They continue sailing straight. April 1st, 1520. Juan Cartagena of the San Antonio organizes a mutiny. One helper is Sebastian de Elencano, the master of the Concepcion. Magellan has cut our rations. It's time for action. A ration is the amount of food. If you cut my amount of food, I'm going to be mad too. By late March, winter arrives and sailing conditions become poor. Send 2 ships to explore ahead. There's our Magellan and there's his assistant, Enrique. It's freezing. He'll get us all killed. The ships find no passageway. Magellan decides to spend the winter in the bay, which he calls the Port San Julian. By April 2nd, 1520, my sister is actually born on April 2nd. By April 2nd, 1520, Magellan learns the mutiny has taken over 3 of his ships. He sends over armed men to crush the uprising. By nighttime, the rebellion is over. The next day, Magellan gathers his crew. This expedition will only succeed if you are all loyal. We will find the strait soon. We are not far from the Spice Islands. In May, Magellan sends the Santiago further south to search for the strait, but a storm forces the ships onto reefs. Abandoned ship, we're going under. After leaving Port San Julian on August 24th, the fleet spends 8 weeks anchored at the mouth of a large river. Following months of bad luck, the crew finally makes a promising discovery. That body of water seems to flow inland. I pray we found the strait. Magellan sends the San Antonio and Concepcion to explore the inlet. 5 days later, two ships return. We don't know where the inlet leads, but the water is salty and deep. It could be an ocean. All four of our ships will now go forward. Esteban Gomez, the pilot of the San Antonio, disagrees with Magellan. We should turn back to Spain and return with a better supplied fleet. No, we will continue onward. Now, his crew was already unhappy at him, and I don't think that they're going to become any happier now. I think I missed this bottom section. Sometimes comics, it's hard to tell whether they go across or down or where to go in the box. So I think I missed this, but it looks like our boat was rescued. Magellan and the Trinidad sail ahead to explore the strait. The other ships also search for signs of an ocean. We know that a strait is a gap of water between two bodies of land, so this must be the strait. But not all ships continue. Where is the San Antonio? For nearly 4 weeks, Magellan searches for the San Antonio. He doesn't know that it has sailed back to Spain with much of the supplies and food. We must go on without them. The San Antonio gave up. Throughout the strait, Magellan sees campfires on distant shores. He calls them Tierra del Fuego, or the Land of Fire. November 28th, 1520. After sailing the strait for 38 days, the fleet enters the new sea. Magellan renames it the Pacific Ocean. Pacifico means calm or peaceful. We will reach the Spice Island in a few days. Magellan is excited by his discovery, but the expedition's troubles are not over. Exploring the Pacific. For several months, the fleet sails alongside the western coast of South America and then westward into the Pacific. As time passes, the conditions in the ship worsen. With little food, the crew is forced to eat rats, sawdust, and leather. Many men fall ill and die. These biscuits are full of worms. Those biscuits look gross. The water is disgusting. I've almost forgotten what real food looks like, he says. March 6, 1521. The ships anchor off the island of Guam. There they trade for fresh food that they've tasted in 99 days. That's just just under 4 months of not having anything fresh. When I was living and teaching in Alaska, sometimes we'd go 1 or 2 weeks without having fresh food, and you really felt it in your body. You moved slower, and you wanted things like salt, and you just craved things. I can't imagine what it would be like to have just under 4 months of that. Magellan and the crew went to remain at Guam to rest and trade food and supplies. However, conflicts with local villages forced the fleet to keep pushing forward. March 16, 1521. The fleet reaches the uninhabited island of Homalon in the Philippines. Villagers from a nearby island bring fresh fruit such as coconuts to sick sailors. This speeds their recovery. Eat this, you'll feel better in no time, says Magellan. Magellan shows the islanders spices he's brought along on the voyage. He's saying the spices grow not far away. See, then we are near the Spice Islands. The fleet sails to the town of Limasawa. The local chief tells Magellan to go to an island called Cebu. There he can trade for more food. April 14, 1521. Hamublan, the ruler of Cebu, agrees to make the islands part of Spain. He also becomes a Christian. Part of Magellan was trying to Christianize, to baptize people. He was part of a missionary. Magellan's crew baptizes hundreds of the island's people. But not all the local peoples are this friendly with Magellan. Hamublan says the islands of Macatan will not accept our ways. Lapu-Lapu, the chief of Macatan, is the Hamulan's enemy. Then we must try to change his mind. He's going somewhere where he knows that they won't like him. April 26th, 1521. Disaster. Magellan orders all the chiefs in the area to become allies with Spain. Some agree, but Lapu-Lapu refuses. After midnight, Magellan and a group of armed men row toward Magellan. This isn't going to be good. Send a message to the people of Magellan. If they side with Spain, we will become their friends. The islanders are ready to fight. So be it. We will show them how the warriors of Spain fight. Look at the differences in our outfits. We have armor versus nothing. I wonder who's going to win. Magellan's crew and hundreds of islanders clash in a fierce battle. Magellan eventually dies in the fight. Save yourselves. Go back to the boats. Well, that is not who I thought would win. We have people who are completely not dressed for battle in the sense of a European style of putting on a bunch of armor and suits and super heavy metal. But if you're fighting in water, putting on armors and suits of super heavy metal, that might not be the safest course of action because that would be very heavy and you might fall underwater. After the battle, the crew burns the Conception. There are not enough men for 3 ships. 2 crew members take command of the fleet for now. The hunt for the Spice Islands continues. So even though Magellan's passed away, he's been killed, they still decide to keep traveling. In the following months, the crews of the Trinidad and Victoria often run low on food. They act as pirates to avoid hunger and diseases. They stop ships and take their supplies. Be careful with those crates. If the crates fall, all of their food and items are going to fall into the water. Back. August 15th, 1521. The 2 ships anchor at an island called Sinobaban, where they remain for 42 days. During this time, Elanco is chosen to take command of the fleet. Now, we know that the first captain to cross was Juan Castillo de Cabo. So this is not the first captain. I wonder what's going to happen to this guy then. November 6, 1521. 6 months after the ships fled from Macatan, they finally spot the Spice Islands. 2 days later, the ships anchor near the island of Triador. The king of the islands opens up trade with the crew. Spices are exchanged for cloth, scissors, and other items. This cargo of spices is almost as valuable as the gold itself. Aboard the Victoria, Elanco discusses the return voyage to Spain with his pilot. We must avoid the Portuguese ships at all costs. We will sail them at top speed and make no stops. Set our course to sail west along the Indian Ocean and around the tip of Africa to get back to Spain. The Trinidad develops a leak and is not able to make the return voyage with the Victoria. September 6th, 1521. After 3 years, almost 3 years after its departure, the Victoria finally returns to Spain. The crew is the first to sail around the world. Home at last. Although he did not survive, Ferdinand Magellan proved the world was round. His voyage inspired others to sail the seas and learn about the world in which we live. And that's the end of our book. Some vocab words that we've looked at before. We've done it. We can go ahead and there's a lot more if you are interested to finish and you read this book. There's a lot more I've got about Magellan. We have this one on Magellan. We have our in-class activity. If I was planning ahead, I would have pulled all of my Magellan books out instead of trying to look at my bookshelf here of all of my Magellan Explorer books. I know that they're in there. I just should have found them before I said we have a lot of books on Magellan. And here I got my Magellan book. All right. Good deal. That was a good book.